It's Museum of Tarot, your thirst trap for hidden mysteries. So let's talk about why the Vatican isn't what you think it is. The structure hides hidden occult information, and it's built like an Egyptian mystery school temple. In part 1, I introduced information that proved that the Vatican was built on a temple to Gaia, to the Magna Mater, the Great Mother Goddess. In earlier videos, I introduced the work of Renee Schwaller-de-Lubitsch, an expert occultist who wrote a book on the Temple of Men, an encyclopedic set that shows that the Egyptian temple contains encoded esoteric physiology about the enlightenment of the human mind. So now let's put them together. Here's an aerial view of the Vatican, and here is a map. You can see the Cathedral of St. Peter's in front of the Piazza San Pietro, and we will get to those in a moment. Above them are the Papal Living Quarters, the Sistine Chapel, the Vatican Museum Complex, and the Vatican Libraries. If we take this library and museum complex, and we match it up with Schwaller-de-Lubitsch's overhead map of the Temple of Luxor from Egypt, you'll see some striking similarities. As I expose the overlay, you'll see that both structures take on the same symbolic proportions, the same proportions of the human body, the same mathematics. These mathematics were meant to encode the sacred science, the symbolic representation of an initiate as they went through their initiatory process. To lowball it for you, both structures had areas of the building that correspond to the pineal gland, to the limbic system, the heart chakra, the solar plexus chakra, etc. At the Vatican, the area that corresponds with the awakened pineal gland is called the Cortile della Pina, the courtyard of the pine cone. Now, here's some pictures I took years ago of the giant pine cone, and there's a few things going on here, and there's layers of meaning, so let me explain them to you. On either side of the pine cone are two peacocks. Peacocks feature prominently in the Gnostic mysteries because they are symbolic of the array of glory that comes when you illumine yourself. The two on either side would be the male and female forces that cross over in the brain to ignite the pine cone. So why a peacock? Well, when a peacock unfurls its tail, it has this big, beautiful plumage of blues and greens and radiant hues. This is symbolic of the glory that comes when you illumine your mind, and it's very similar to what you'd see in the East when they show depictions of an awakened chakra and the lotus unfurls. You can see examples of this in the peacock goddess, Tauzi Melek of the Yazidis, which is probably why the Yazidis have been targeted in the last few years, because they're still one of the last Gnostic holdouts. Sitting below the peacocks are two lions, one on either side. In Egypt, the lion was symbolic of force, like spiritual force or energetic force, the two forces that would come together again to ignite the pine cone. The symbology of the pine cone works really well with the splayed glory of the peacock's tail. When you take a pine cone and you roast it or heat it, if you look down from the top, it opens up. It opens up into 1,000 petals of glory, very similar to when you open up your crown chakra, the depictions of that. And again, the symbology of heating something, of adding the spiritual fire to it to make it awaken, is perfect for the pine cone. The very same pine cone that is in the Cortile della Pina was taken from the Temple of Gaia, of the Magna Mater, of the Mithraeum, that the Vatican was built into and enclosed. They still are reusing it today. This symbol of the pagan mysteries and pagan illumination is being featured very prominently in their library and museum that symbolizes illumination and intelligence and knowledge. The pine cone, the pineal gland, the third eye, is not the only chakra that's featured in this floor plan. Just below it in the same courtyard is a depiction of the heart chakra, and below that there is a rotunda in the museum that has a skylight above it, and that is the solar plexus, which the skylight being the solar plexus, that kind of goes together. Directly below that is a gigantic statue of Osiris. But more than that, where they chose to put various galleries in the museum is even more striking. Directly above the third eye, the Cortile della Pina, right where the gray matter would be, the cerebral cortex, a higher thought of the human mind, they chose to put a gallery of the Egyptian portion of the museum that is an Egyptian initiation temple. And here's that temple with some very interesting statues and depictions. This isn't the only area of the Vatican where esoteric physiology is on display. If you go to the Sistine Chapel, God is reaching out his finger to Adam, and God is shaped like a brain. Likewise, if you take a look at the wall, both sides of the wall encode the left and right hemispheres of the brain and the limbic system. And to take it one step further, the very structure of St. Peter's Cathedral and St. Peter's Square itself is an act of symbolic magic. What do I mean? Well, here we have St. Peter's Square and St. Peter's Cathedral. The shape of the plaza is meant to represent a female womb with a birth canal. In the center is an obelisk, a male phallus for the sun god. It is sitting inside of a solar cross that is similar to what you'd see in Great Britain, and this is meant to represent the solstices. There's more to this that I can get to in later videos. So the question is, what are they giving birth to? Well, they're giving birth to Christendom, to Christianity. This would be the baby. Now remember, this complex is meant to symbolize St. Peter, the rock of Christendom. And what is that rock? The basis of Christianity. It is the perfected ashlar of Freemasonry. It is the stone that the builder refused, that through spiritual endeavor has been made perfect. It is the philosopher's stone. They are attempting to give birth to the belief in a literal version of Jesus Christ as a historical figure, and not the spiritual concept of an awakened Christ body within you. By taking the symbolic spiritual beliefs of the Gnostics, integrating it into their stories and into their structures, and slightly changing the meanings, they have conducted a mass operation in counterintelligence, shifting the meaning from a system of initiation, of self-fulfillment, of finding the truth for yourself, and turned it into a system of worship by which they have gained corporeal power, and they have controlled large masses of the human population and stripped them of their spiritual heritage.